Trump made sure that he is not part of the memorandum of understanding or the peace deal, as he calls, because he knew that he is not in favor of a ceasefire. He wants America to continue attacking Iran and destroy it until the infrastructure is completely annihilated.
Does it put Donald Trump and Netanyahu in just face-to-face and in a direct fight, almost a geopolitical fight?
But the showdown is bound to happen. It will not happen in public.
Sir, are you saying that Prime Minister Modi, instead of supporting Netanyahu, will be more inclined to support Donald Trump or America?
Yes, of course. There's absolutely no doubt he will be with the winning party.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. The US-Iran deal, which was signed remotely and digitally, seems to have collapsed. Yes, because a new round of direct talks between America and Iran have been postponed after Vice President J.D. Vance delayed a planned trip to Switzerland. Now, the White House announced late on Thursday that Vance would not be traveling to the talks and said the logistics had not been simple or predictable. It comes a day after the US dropped its naval blockade of Iran after the two countries signed a deal aimed at ending the conflict. Now, while the deal also said that fighting should end in Lebanon, the country's health ministry said Israeli strikes had killed at least 18 people in the south overnight, which means that there were bombings, there were killings in South Lebanon, which was a violation of the very first clause on which that US-Iran deal was signed. Now, Israel's military said it had targeted the Iran-backed group Hezbollah and that 4 of its own soldiers had been killed. Now, the negotiators had been due to meet for what US officials described as technical discussions on the next steps of the agreement signed earlier this week. But in its statement, White House said that plans for the talks had not been finalized. It added that the US looked forward to beginning technical talks as soon as possible. Switzerland's foreign ministry later confirmed the talks at the Bergenstock mountaintop resort had been postponed, although it said preparations for talks were continuing. Now, this entire collapse of the US-Iran deal, not collapse in the real sense, but because there were strikes, there were Israeli strikes in South Lebanon, which is why Iran has put everything in America's basket, that go and resolve your problem. You should know how to handle Israel. Now, what happens to the situation now evolving? It puts Donald Trump in a direct fight with Benjamin Netanyahu. And that raises the questions because does it lead to a situation where America and Iran now could become one bloc and then fight Netanyahu? In this particular situation, where do you see Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy vis-a-vis Iran and vis-a-vis Israel as well? And of course, America. Joining me this evening is Professor Aftab Kemal Pasha, international affairs expert and diplomat. So thank you so much for joining. And are we in a position to say that the deal has temporarily collapsed? It was a 14-point deal which was signed, which was called the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. And on the basis of this Memorandum of Understanding, the two countries, America and Iran, were supposed to go ahead and go in for the further talks in Switzerland. But because of the strikes in South Lebanon, everything has come to a halt. What is the situation like?
Yeah, you see, I don't think the MOU or talks have collapsed. The Iranians say that it is because of their religious ceremonies associated with Muharram, the annual festival or condolences which they expressed the death of Ali, Hazrat Hussein and Hassan. So that's the reason they were not able to join on Friday. Perhaps a mutually agreed date they will join. But as you said, Lebanon is a thorny issue, and the continued airstrikes and expulsion orders by Netanyahu also seem to have dampened the spirit. And quite a few people have been killed despite American presidents urging on Netanyahu to desist from attacking and destroying civilian buildings. I think Netanyahu is in no mood to listen and uh, stop the aggression which he has been carrying out mostly against civilians who have had to flee in hundreds and thousands to the northern part as far as Beirut and Tripoli. So there are hiccups because the Iranians were saying that this ceasefire, once it is signed, applies to all the fronts, including Lebanon. So that is still live, according to the Iranians, and uh, they expect the Americans to put pressure on Israel to stop these hostilities. Maybe they will wait until this happens on the Lebanese front because they have considered this as very important in their overall peace efforts, agreeing to a ceasefire. So, protecting Hezbollah, because in the memorandum they have mentioned Hezbollah.
But sir, Benjamin Netanyahu chose to strike South Lebanon once again. He knew very well that the deal was on, the memorandum of understanding was signed on both sides. And even then, if he chose to attack and hit with missiles and other things in South Lebanon, does it not go to show that deliberately Benjamin Netanyahu is now trying to sabotage this America-Iran deal?
See, from the very outset, Trump made sure that he is not part of the memorandum of understanding or the peace deal, as he calls, because he knew that he is not in favor of a ceasefire. He wants America to continue attacking Iran and destroy it until the infrastructure is completely annihilated and the enriched uranium is seized and brought out of Iran. So the two diverged on this issue, and President Trump realized that if we stick to Israeli agenda, it will cause more harm to America and the world economy, because in France he mentioned that they were very close to entering a global recession, which means America is the largest economy. So American economy was heading towards recession. And he wanted to avoid this kind of economic meltdown. And he mentioned Herbert Hoover's term, which led to disastrous economic situation in the 1920s. So this economic depression is one reason. And the other one is the high oil prices and inflation, which were eating into his popularity in America. So the American president, in order to save his MAGA base and the growth of anti-Trump feelings in the Republican Party overall in the United States, his ratings had come down. He realized that if he still remains as partner with Netanyahu against Iran, it will affect his credibility and affect the economic situation very badly. The strategic reserves also were drying up very quickly. So in that way, he has distance, kept Netanyahu away, and until the last moment, he had not divulged the details of the MOU to Netanyahu or to the Israelis. So Israel is now bent upon undermining this one way or the other. And I think his colleagues, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, and the two rival former prime ministers, Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid, and Benny Gantz, the former army chief, also has joined the league in criticizing Netanyahu for not achieving the stated war goals against Iran. So all in all, his political credibility has suffered a lot and is plummeting. The polls show that he is lagging far behind the other two former prime minister rivals.
It's a desperate situation on both sides, whether it is Donald Trump because he has to face the midterm elections in America. Netanyahu also has to face elections, and which is why Netanyahu is now hitting South Lebanon to send out a political message to his own political constituency. But where does it leave the bonding between America and Israel? Does it suffer because of this? Does it put Donald Trump and Netanyahu in just face to face and in a direct fight, almost a geopolitical fight?
No, America has saved itself from the catastrophe which he saw writing on the wall, because the Strait of Hormuz, which was closed, without Iran's permission, no ship was allowed to go virtually. So America was unable to implement the Operation Freedom to escort the ships either to or from the Strait of Hormuz. So it was a very delicate situation for President Trump. And this the collision is bound to happen now, because the ceasefire in Lebanon has to be implemented one way or the other by Trump. And he has already said so in France that Israel is not doing a good job and it has not succeeded in neutralizing
the other day, the Israeli one of the Israeli ministers said, when the deal was in the process of getting signed, they said that this deal is not binding on Israel, and which is what they have done on the very first day, even less than 24 hours, that they have hit South Lebanon. Now, does that mean that Donald Trump is going to act tough against Israel now?
Yes, it is expected, at least by Iran, that America, which has enormous influence over Israel, will act up and discipline that it should be respected as part of the deal America has signed. It's the question of prestige of the United States, and everybody knows that Israel is dependent. However, the Israeli National Security Minister Ben Gvir and Smotrich, the finance minister, they have adopted a very defined tone and extreme language in saying that Israel is an independent sovereign country. It is not bound by this agreement, and they are not going to listen to external pressure, so on and so forth. But these are ministers which Netanyahu will have to control and tell them that it is in the larger interest.
The big question is that will Netanyahu listen to Donald Trump? Now, what if Netanyahu continues to be recalcitrant, continues to be obstinate, no matter what Trump says? Because obviously, if he had to listen to Donald Trump, he wouldn't have attacked on South Lebanon.
No, he has not attacked the MOU also. He has not criticized, and he has been very careful. Only his ministers have voiced their opposition. But you see, the military chain of command, until the word flows from the IDF headquarters, it takes time. So I hope that very soon there will be cessation of firing from the Israeli IDF, and that a large number of civilians have already started returning to southern Lebanon, despite the Lebanese government's urging that not to go is still dangerous to go. But the Israeli defense forces are facing a huge volume of civilians, more than 1 million want to go back to their homes, even though most of them are destroyed. So in that way, it will be a clash between the IDF and the civilians, which if it leads to firing, lead to more casualties.
But Dr. Pasha, is it a tough call for President Donald Trump to tame Netanyahu? Because unless Netanyahu is tamed, he listens to what Donald Trump is saying, this peace deal will not go forward. And as what is coming out from White House, that J.D. Vance has already cancelled his trip to Switzerland. Now, how many days will it take for Donald Trump to tame Netanyahu to agree that, okay, you will not attack South Lebanon?
It should not take much time. It should not take much time if American president acts tough. Israel has no choice. Israel has absolutely no choice, because it is not a matter of extreme threat to its national security. It can cease fire and continue to occupy southern Lebanon America is not asking it to withdraw immediately. So it is part of the negotiating process for 2 months, that is 60 days. And it can insist on whatever conditions it may lay down for its withdrawal, like disarming of Hezbollah and control of the border wherever it vacates by the Lebanese army. That is subject to negotiation between the Lebanese government of Aoun and the Israelis, which the Americans are mediating. But the showdown is bound to happen. It will not happen in public. There will be no exchange of sharp messages. It will be quietly done, and Netanyahu knows that he has to behave. America has to just tighten the screws. A couple of them. One is arms. Then they can let the Soviets or the Chinese, Russians and the Chinese to know that they will not veto any resolution if they bring. Or in the Congress, when this MOU is presented, he can mobilize the Democrats also who are willing to support him on this issue. So politically, financially, militarily, Israel will be isolated. I don't think any Israeli leader can defy the United States president.
Like what you were saying, that Israel will be politically, economically, and geopolitically isolated. Where does it leave Prime Minister Modi then? Because Prime Minister Modi has not hesitated even a single bit in displaying his extreme proximity with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, that was before the war, when he went there and hugged and supported his anti-terrorism rhetoric and all. But apart from sending weapons, he has not applauded the Israeli leader. He has been very circumspect. And now that he has met Trump and restored his friendship, at least outwardly, so there is this hope that with his support for the MOU and call for the opening of the Strait of Hormuz for international navigation and maritime security. So Prime Minister Modi is reading the writing on the wall, and that is the differences between the two, that is Trump and Netanyahu, and that Israel is isolated, sidelined, and that we need to support America because now Iran and America have come together, and along with the GCC states.
Sir, are you saying that Prime Minister Modi, instead of supporting Netanyahu, will be more inclined to support Donald Trump or America?
Yes, of course. There's absolutely no doubt he will be with the winning party because the loser is, after all, Israel. It has not gained, and nobody is willing to attack now. No American president will attack Iran again to destroy.
What about these stories, sir, that Israel has dubious methods of arm twisting leaders globally? Now, say, for example, all the stories which were coming out on Epstein files, Pegasus. So there are 100 ways in which Netanyahu can arm twist Prime Minister Modi also. So would Prime Minister Modi display his distancing with Israel?
Yeah, to a large extent, he will display. It depends upon how strong President Trump is and how he will be able to ward off the Epstein file threat which Netanyahu can display, and the IPAC and Jewish lobby and the mobilization with Jewish media can do in America. So now the mood in America is to support Trump, to get out of this war which has hurt them very much. And it has been a big drain on the pockets of the Americans. So no amount of threats from Israel or Netanyahu will materialize because then Trump will be able to push back Netanyahu, and once he does, his credibility will suffer much more as the elections are coming. So both are cautious in not treading beyond the red lines because it will hurt the prospect of both Trump as well as Netanyahu if they get entangled in this kind of a situation. And Modi, I think if he's smart enough, he will identify more with the winning side because Trump has more cards in this game, right, both military, political, economic, and all other things put together. So in that way, he, I think, is a realist, and hopefully he will use his cards in a smart way to not to criticize Netanyahu, but also not to praise him as he has done before, and
No,
take a partisan approach.
right. But as far as the geopolitical equations are concerned, Dr. Pasha, how do they change? Now, post this, do we see America and Iran coming together as one bloc, and at least they acknowledge that the need for oil can be fulfilled through these two countries. So how do these geopolitical equations get reset after this, as far as Iran and America are concerned?
You see, the whole war was to accommodate Israel in a bigger way at the expense of Iran. But Iran has not given space to Israel and much to the United States. So now the emerging geopolitical situation is that the GCC states want to live in peace with Iran. They are already working on the rapprochement through economic investments and releasing the funds which they had withheld in banks, so on and so forth. So now there is a trilateral emerging alliance between America, the Gulf states, and Iran, which is a formidable economic oil bloc, because they control more than 60% of the oil, if you include Iraq also, because it is also part of the American access. So in that way, Israel, if it had supported this and stomached its Greater Israel project, it would have benefited. But now it is isolated. So now the Gulf states also are keeping Israel at a respectable distance because of America, because of Iran. So in that way, Iran is a gainer in this geopolitical game, and the geoeconomics is going to play an important role because Strait of Hormuz is still under Iranian control, and the Gulf states would be dependent on Iran for the free flow of oil and gas, which it can threaten to block anytime. So in that way, America try to please the Iranians and assure the GCC states so that all three can work together. And it is in the interest of all the three to stabilize the situation and allow the free flow of oil and gas and petrodollars to move back and forth as they were before.
So, are we seeing a possibility that Prime Minister Modi will now come? He's already close to Donald Trump, but he will at least display his proximity now to Iran. What he was not acknowledging in the beginning when the war started, and we almost saw that kind of a distancing on Prime Minister Modi, with Iran. And there were so many examples of that. Will he now take special efforts to display his proximity with Iran?
He has no choice. You see, the oil crisis has hurt India so much that we were buying the most expensive oil and gas anywhere available in the world, amounting to almost $157 in the basket. No other country was importing because he had to keep during the elections and afterwards the supply of uninterrupted oil to Indian consumers. Otherwise, his image would have taken a beating. So in that way, now the nearest and cheapest source of oil is Iran and the Gulf, and not Argentina, Brazil, Nigeria, and America, so on and so forth. He may continue to buy some oil from America just to please Donald Trump and keep the trade talks going as per the trade agreement which is being negotiated, the interim. But in the long run, you see, India is a huge importer. More than 5 million barrels of oil we need every 24 hours. And the cheapest and the nearest is the Gulf oil. So with Iran sanctions being removed, Iranian oil will be available in plenty, and they may not give us the concessions which they used to give earlier, like rupee real payment or concessional transport and 3-month credit, so on and so forth. But at the market level, prices also, they are expected to come down from the present $75 a barrel to at least $60-65, which is quite within the budget which the ministry and government had kept here. Now we are spending double the amount. $70 was the benchmark. Now we are spending 157, means double. So if we can save so much money, so much the saving in foreign exchange, and he has not, Prime Minister Modi has not done anything which will bring the wrath of the Iranians. The only thing is he appeared to be neutral, that he has not condemned the Israeli-American aggression, he has not condoled the death of Ali Khamenei and the death of Iranian sailors, etc., etc. But Iran has not done anything or taken anything hostile from India. So in that way, there is room to maneuver, room to repair, and keep chanting and applauding the civilizational ties with Iran, and send his foreign minister to talk to Abbas Araghchi and seem to repair the ties, because it is a necessity, it is a compulsion. Right. The economic development and the huge need. We are dependent to the extent of 85% of our crude oil and gas. So in that way, we are vulnerable. We have no choice but to repair our relations with Iran.
But, Dr. Pasha, but at the end of this war, which almost like the strikes continue, but who do you think has really won? Is it the win-win situation for America and Iran, and it's an immensely bad situation for Netanyahu? So Netanyahu looks like the ultimate loser. India, it seems, didn't lose much. Whatever ground was lost, they will try and recover now.
Iran is the clear winner. Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. Out of the 14 points, almost 12 points are in favor of Iran. And despite the huge military effort by the United States, it has not been able to defeat Iran and make it surrender as President Trump wanted. It has not surrendered. It has negotiated from a position of strength. And it has got commitment that US will not attack. Number 1 article. Number 2, the blockade will be lifted. Number 3, the sanctions will be lifted. Number 4, the frozen assets will be released. Number 5, $300 billion will be mobilized for the reconstruction. And the nuclear issue is a back burner. America is now willing to accept the minimum enrichment of uranium by Iran, as President Trump said, like other countries.
Iran undoubtedly is a clear winner, but when I'm talking about India and America clearly has lost. But from India's perspective, and this is my final question to you, where does it leave India? India, whatever ground it lost in the beginning, is it now in a position to recover? So which means that as India hasn't lost much.
Yes, India has the possibility of regaining the lost ground, provided Prime Minister doesn't get close or visit Israel and praise his anti-terrorism policy or supports his invasion of Lebanon and again attacks Iran, that it is a terrorist state, so on and so forth. So if he keeps quiet on the Israeli front, probably the Iranians would be willing to reciprocate. And more important is America is willing to help us in this endeavor, because we have supported his MOU, which he thought because of the strained relations with Modi, he may favor Netanyahu. But he has been able to win over, and both have ceased their, hostility, Cold War, or whatever one might call. So in that way, now Modi appears to be on the winning side, and absolutely America has, won over the Iranians to discuss diplomacy, and it is a win-win situation for Iran and the United States. And in that way, Modi will claim that we are on the winning side and sideline Israel.
Right. And towards the end of the show, I'm just reminded of that phrase that all's well that ends well. And we hope that Prime Minister Modi doesn't go around now praising Netanyahu and show his display of affection for Bibi. Thank you so much, Dr. Pasha, for joining on HW News. Thank you.
Thank you.